All right, let's jump into a deep dive on Doms Industries Limited, getting ready for that meeting with their leadership team. We want to make sure you have all the info you need. We've got the financial reports, earnings call transcript, even some press releases. So should give us a good picture, of their performance and their strategy going forward.
Yeah, they're an interesting company for sure. Doms is really a big player in India now. They're not just stationery and art materials anymore either. That expansion they did into baby hygiene, that's particularly interesting. Definitely something to be aware of for your meeting.
Right. Okay. So just to start with the basics, Doms Industries is a leading manufacturer in India. They do stationery, art materials, and, well, more recently, baby hygiene products. Now, they've also partnered up with the Italian company FILA, so that gives them some global reach and some extra expertise. Now, if we look at their financials for Q3 of fiscal year 2025, their revenue is up almost 35% year over year. That's not bad.
Yeah, I mean, to have that kind of growth in this market, pretty impressive. Lots of companies struggling with the economy, but not them. One thing that really jumps out at me is their EBITDA growth. It's almost 27%, up to 87.9 crores. And get this, they actually exceeded their targeted EBITDA margin, hitting 17.5%. They were only projecting 16 to 17%.
So not just growing, but growing profitably. I bet that'll be a big topic of conversation with their leadership. What do you think that tells us about their strategy?
Well, I think it points to them really focusing on their sales mix. You know, they're not just selling more, they're selling more of the right things, higher margin products. And it looks like their expansion initiatives, especially in stationery and art materials, those are really paying off.
Yeah, and in their earnings call, they were really talking up those back-to-school essentials, expanded product lines and writing instruments, paper stationery, and fine art products. Plus, they're launching new markers and highlighters. Seems like they're really going after that student market.
Right. And we can't forget about their acquisition of Uniclin Healthcare,
Mhm.
back in September 2024. That was their entry into baby hygiene. And as we've seen, it's already making a real difference in their revenue.
That acquisition was a smart move, instant access to a whole new market. But they haven't just sat on that acquisition, they've been really strategic about using it.
Yeah, what I find interesting is how they used Uniclin's domestic focus to really expand their reach.
Hmm.
Doms leveraged their existing distribution network to boost Uniclin. For example, their super stockists in Nepal are now also handling those Uniclin diapers. Talk about synergy.
And they're aiming for double-digit margins in baby hygiene, even though it's lower margin right now.
Mm.
What makes them so confident they can get there?
Well, one big factor is that capacity expansion they're undergoing. They're building a whole new facility. First building is supposed to be ready for machinery in Q3 of fiscal year 2026, clearly planning for some serious growth.
And they're putting their money where their mouth is. Their capital expenditure this year is projected to be around 160 to 175 crores, jumping up to 200 to 225 crores in fiscal year 2026. That's a big commitment to expansion.
Definitely a bold move, but it does show how serious they are about this. They see the demand growing and they want to be ready for it. But it's not just about bricks and mortar either. Innovation is a big part of this too. They're constantly launching new and improved products like those high-value added school bags they mentioned.
Yeah, and they're boosting their pencil production capacity. Plus, they've got that new line of highlighters, those combination packs too. Seems like they're always trying to stay ahead of the curve.
Absolutely. And we can't overlook the role of their distribution network in all of this. Over 5,600 distributors and 140,000 retail outlets across India. That's a powerful system. But they're not complacent. They're expanding their reach even further, especially in that general trade channel.
So they've got the products, the production capacity, and the distribution network. What else are they prioritizing?
Well, sustainability is a big one. Can't ignore that in today's world. Doms is walking the walk with things like that $1 million solar plant at their Umbergaon facility. They're even looking into solar electrification at their other locations.
Yeah, that sends a clear message, to consumers, to investors, shows they're committed to responsible growth, and that really resonates, especially with younger generations.
Yeah, it shows they're thinking ahead, and it's interesting how they're applying that same mindset to their employees too. They recently granted stock options to over 900 of their team members.
Oh, wow, that's a great way to foster a sense of ownership, And it aligns their incentives with the company's performance. It really sounds like Dom's is firing on all cylinders. But I'm sure they're facing some challenges too, right?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
No company is immune to that.
Yeah.
They've talked about the impact of geopolitical tensions, especially in the Middle East. That's affecting their export business. And they've mentioned a slowdown in Europe too that adds another layer of complexity to their export strategy.
So how are they dealing with these external pressures?
Well, it seems like they're taking a proactive approach.
Yeah.
diversifying their export markets, exploring new partnerships, and being cautious about expanding too quickly, making sure they have the capacity before jumping into new markets.
So always assessing the landscape, looking for the best opportunities.
Exactly. They see potential where others might be retreating,
Mm.
a chance to gain market share, establish a foothold. And they're not losing sight of the domestic market either, especially with that back-to-school season coming up.
Right. They're expecting some strong tailwinds from that, along with that increased government spending and education.
And they're getting ready for it, new product lines, expanding their distribution, strengthening those retail relationships. They really seem to understand their core customer, what those students and parents want. It's not just about the lowest price, it's about value, quality, and innovation.
Right, like those combination packs and those high value added school bags we talked about. It's clear they're paying attention to what their customers are looking for. But even though their focus on stationery and art materials is strong, they're exploring new avenues for growth. Like their associate company, Clapjoy Innovations, they're in the toy market.
Ah, yes, Clapjoy. Their revenues actually grew by 35% year over year in Q3, reached 2 crores. That's pretty healthy growth. And they're already co-branding some Clapjoy products with the Dom's name.
It seems like a good way to test the waters, see how their brand translates to a new market. But toys are competitive. It'll be interesting to see how they differentiate themselves.
Definitely. Will they focus on educational toys? Maybe. Will they leverage that existing distribution network to reach new customers? Lots of possibilities, but it's clear Dom's isn't afraid to experiment.
Yeah, that willingness to adapt, to evolve, that's essential these days, and it seems like a big part of what makes Dom's Industries so interesting. But before we get too far ahead, let's dive into those financial statements a bit more. I'm really curious about the details of those acquisitions.
Yeah, let's take a closer look. Yeah, we were just talking about those acquisitions, right? It's one thing to say they acquired Uniclin Healthcare, but let's really see what that means, for their financials.
Yeah, how did that deal actually work?
Well, if you look at their consolidated financial statements, you see that Doms acquired a 51.77% equity stake in Uniclin. The total consideration was 5,487.92 lakhs, and this happened back in the quarter ending September 30, 2024.
So, majority stake in Uniclin. Interesting. And it seems like they're already leveraging the Dom's brand. Look at those diapers. They're already co-branding them under the name Dom's Wowper.
Smart move, right? They're tapping into that brand recognition, that trust that Doms already has. And it's not just diapers either. They're planning to start manufacturing wet wipes in-house by the end of Q4 of fiscal year 2025.
Makes sense. A more holistic approach to baby hygiene, not just one product.
Exactly. And bringing that wet wipe manufacturing in-house, that gives them more control over their supply chain, could mean higher profit margins too. Oh, and speaking of acquisitions, remember Skeeto Industries?
Skeeto, right, the bag manufacturer.
Yep. Dom's got a majority stake in them back in April 2024. And in Q3 of fiscal year 2025, Skeeto brought in almost 3 crores in revenue with a 13% EBIT margin.
Those are some solid numbers. Seems like Dom's has a knack for finding and acquiring companies with good fundamentals.
Yeah, and in their earnings call, they mentioned that Skeeto sales are currently split, about 55% going to Dom's, for their kits and combination packs,
Yeah.
and the other 45% being sold to third parties.
So taking it slow with Skeeto, integrating them before really branching out.
Yeah, but they do have some interesting plans. They're going to launch a line of those high-value added school bags under the Dom's brand during that upcoming back-to-school season.
Dom's is really all over those school essentials. But acquisitions aside, they're still committed to organic growth, too. Like that new facility, that's a big sign of that commitment.
Oh yeah, that facility is going to be huge, over 1.8 million square feet when it's finished. And they've said they want to achieve a 3x gross revenue return on that investment once it's fully up and running.
Ambitious goal, but with their track record, I wouldn't bet against them. And it seems like they're being smart about the rollout, too, phasing it in to manage those capital expenditures.
Definitely. It's a balancing act, right? They need to meet the growing demand, but they don't want to overextend themselves either. And speaking of responsible management, we talked about their commitment to sustainability. But it's worth highlighting how that really fits with their brand, especially how it resonates with those younger consumers.
Right, those solar initiatives, it's not just about saving money. It's a real sign of their commitment to the environment. And we can't forget those stock options they gave to their employees, over 900 of them. Says a lot about their company culture.
Absolutely. They value their employees. They want them to share in the success. It's a good move all around, financially and culturally. But As well as things seem to be going, they're not immune to those external pressures.
Right. We talked about those geopolitical tensions in the Middle East, the slowdown in Europe, both affecting their export business.
Yeah, but they're being proactive about it, diversifying their markets, finding new partnerships, and being careful about expanding too quickly. They're even looking for opportunities where others are pulling back, seeing potential for growth where others see risk,
Always thinking ahead.
and not forgetting the importance of the domestic market either. That back-to-school season, the increased government spending in education, those are big opportunities.
It does sound like they're well positioned.
And they're making smart moves to appeal to their core customers too. Focusing on value, quality, and innovation.
Like those combination packs, those high value added school bags.
Exactly. And while they're still focused on their core offerings, the stationery and art materials, they're not afraid to try new things, new avenues for growth.
Yeah, like that foray into the toy market with Clapjoy Innovations. We've seen their revenue growth, and they're already testing the waters with those co-branded products.
It'll be interesting to see how they approach that market. Will they use their existing distribution network? Will they go for educational toys?
So many questions, but it's clear Doms isn't just sitting around. They're a company on the move, always adapting, always evolving. But before we get to their brand identity, let's think about what all this means for you, for your upcoming meeting.
Yes, good point. It's one thing to know their story, but how can you use that knowledge to your advantage?
Right, I'm going in with all this info. What do I do with
Well,
it?
we've really gone through a lot. Dom's financial performance, their acquisitions, all those expansion plans. But yeah, how do we connect all this back to you and your meeting?
Okay, yeah, good point. I feel like I have this backstage pass now. I understand the company, but what's my next move?
Well, first off, you got to show them you've done your homework, right? You didn't just glance at their website, you dug deep. You look at their financials, you get their acquisitions, their strategy.
So I shouldn't be shy about mentioning specifics.
Exactly. Bring up those numbers, highlight those strategic moves, talk about what impressed you, like their sustainability efforts.
But it's not just about listing facts.
No. You want to show them you're thinking critically about their business, where they fit in the market, the opportunities, the risks.
So asking good questions is key.
Exactly.
Like, how are they planning to deal with those tensions in the Middle East? Or what's their strategy for those ambitious margins in baby hygiene?
Those are great examples. And remember, it's a conversation, not a quiz. Be ready to share your own thoughts, too.
Not just repeating what I've learned, add something to the mix.
Right. And let your enthusiasm show. If you're genuinely interested, they'll see that.
That makes sense. But we didn't really touch on Dom's brand identity that much.
Oh, right. Yeah, their brand is a big part of their story. We mentioned it, but let's dig a little deeper.
In their investor presentation, they have this tagline, "Every ambition needs preparation." Pretty catchy, I think.
Yeah, it's a strong message, and it really resonates with their audience. Students, young adults, people striving for their goals. It makes Doms more than just a product supplier. They're like a partner in your journey.
Not just selling pencils and notebooks, but the tools for success.
Exactly, and they show that visually, too, in their presentation. You see those images of students being creative, athletes training, musicians practicing, and Dom's products are right there with them.
It's subtle, but it really works, Makes you think, if you're serious about your goals, you need Doms.
And that focus on quality and innovation, that's crucial. They're not just pumping out generic stuff. They're investing in R&D, always improving.
Like those markers and highlighters, the school bags.
It's a whole brand ecosystem. Doms is part of your life if you're ambitious. And they're building that presence online, too. Social media, events.
Over 2.5 million YouTube subscribers. Over 85,000 Instagram followers. That's a lot of people.
It is, and it shows they're connecting with their audience, building a community, sharing those inspiring stories, celebrating creativity.
They're not waiting for customers. They're going out and building relationships.
And it's working. Their revenue growth proves that. Brand strength, customer loyalty.
So thinking about my meeting, maybe I should ask about their long-term vision for the Doms brand. Where do they see it going in the future?
That's a great question. Shows you're thinking strategically. You could also ask about how the baby hygiene expansion, even the move into toys, how those fit into their overall brand strategy.
And what about the digital world? Are they going to focus more on e-commerce? How are they using technology to improve the customer experience?
Those are all excellent questions. But remember, it's a dialogue, not just questions. Share your own thoughts. Learn from them.
Show them I'm not just a candidate, but someone who's invested in their success.
Yeah.
Wow, it's amazing how much we covered about Doms Industries. I feel so much more prepared for my meeting now.
That's the power of information, right? You're not just going to a meeting, you're ready to contribute.
I feel like I have this decoder ring now. I understand Doms.
Go in there with confidence, be curious, and be ready to learn.
I'm excited to see what happens. Thanks for all the help.
You got this. Good luck.